All right, I made it go live. I'm gonna get my headphones. I don't know.
Hey, while he's fixing, if you guys can hear me.
Yeah.
Yes, Chuck. Have you guys seen the new program that Tim Allen had?
I can hear you, Chuck.
Assembly required.
Yes.
What? Have you watched that TV program yet on the History Channel? What do you have?
I've seen 2 episodes now.
There goes the phone.
Yep.
Or as soon as you go live, the phone starts ringing.
Yeah, everybody's probably complaining they can't get in.
Yeah.
I hear pigeons.
Hey, Chuck, do you know April?
Yeah, I watched her whole promo on it. But have you seen the show? It's terrible.
Oh, okay.
In
Yeah,
my
I've seen
opinion.
it twice, and I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anybody else seen it?
What's the name of the show?
Assembly required. It's Tim Allen.
Is that the one with April Wilkerson?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I mean, she's fine, but the rest of the shows, I mean, the whole format and Tim Allen and Richard are terrible together. It's really a waste.
I don't think we're going to see April at a bash anytime soon. She didn't like me very much.
No?
No.
I think there's a whole fan club, though, isn't there?
I've got fans on both sides. Yeah. Present company included.
Yeah.
We lost James, huh?
Hey, Ray, you're looking really good this week. You got good light.
Yeah, and I think I have audio figured out, too.
You sound better. Yeah.
All right.
Looks like
now.
you could be Renzetti's cousin or something.
I got the Monarch move. You want to see it?
Oh, it's looking good.
Yeah, I see it.
Chuck, you know we both come from the same state, right?
Yeah. Oh, I never know. Hey, Steve.
Hello. Oh, I got to get set up here.
Eric's here.
Figure out where I'm aimed.
Afternoon, gentlemen.
Good afternoon,
Good
sir.
afternoon.
Good afternoon.
How are the
I
little
love your
ones
channel.
doing?
Something about your channel, Everett, is just magical. I don't know what it is, but I love watching it.
Okay, well, thank you. I'm just screwing around in my shop and just put a video camera over my shoulder for a change.
Hello, Everett.
Hello. I haven't seen the last couple of videos on your Steam engine yet. Sorry, man. I'm trying to catch up with videos.
Hey, Steve, when are you going to build the boiler now for that engine?
It's on my very near to-do list. I got to find a plan. I'm looking for a decent, simple plan.
Are you running it on air now?
It's running on air from my airbrush compressor.
Let's see a demo. Oh, yeah.
There you go.
Looks like you took it apart and painted it already.
It works.
Did you paint it already?
No, this is what the original it had on it when I got it.
Oh, okay.
This had already been built, and they just never really finished it. So, had a lot of problems.
Yeah, I watched the whole series of it. It's a lot of work. Every time you turn around, something else was wrong.
Yeah. You're the one. Huh?
Somebody's giving us a lot of feedback.
Not me.
Nobody move.
Yeah.
See my thing.
Yeah.
It's like a keyboard.
Yeah, I hear pigeons picking away on somebody's keyboard.
I'm
Is
not
that
touching my
it?
keyboard.
I was playing with a tape measure.
That helped.
Is that it?
No.
Yeah.
I'll put it down.
We got Mr. James Clow here is our newcomer today. Him and
Oh,
Everett.
that's okay. Hey, James, how you doing?
Yeah, he still doesn't have his audio working for some reason.
Oh,
It must be. It must be really cold in Idaho because he's frozen.
Well, it's warm up here, so hopefully it has to be quite the inversion.
What have I got? 70 in the shop.
Nice.
It's
I'm
been
sitting in front
crazy
of a
cold.
radiant heater here.
Hmm.
I've got a radiant heater overhead, so I can stand at my bench and I'm warm. Everything else in the shop's cold, but I'm warm.
No, good.
I shut my heater off.
What's it up there, Everett? You're up in Canada, right?
Actually, it's quite pleasant right now. Oh shoot, trying to do the calculation in my head to convert. Outside, it's something like about 10 degrees centigrade right now. So,
Okay.
yeah, spring came early up here. We actually haven't had a whole pile of snow this winter. It was blinking cold for about 5 weeks, but that's past now.
Oh, he's back.
Hey, I can hear you.
Hey,
Yeah.
you're working
There he
now.
is. Okay.
Welcome.
Oh my goodness. Crazy.
Technology.
Hey, I do this every day, all day for a living, and tested it 10 minutes ago. We're great.
Of course.
That's the way it's supposed to work.
Apparently.
So who wants to go first to tell us about your most difficult project?
I've got, I found some stuff that I can actually share.
All right.
I went ahead and took some photographs because it's very small and I can flash those up on the screen.
All right.
I've got the parts right here and I'll show you what they are first. It's, this is a comb. They call it a comb and it's used for weaving carbon fiber. And this is made out of stainless steel. And the problems that the customer was having, it's a German-made machine, and they were running it at 100%, working fine, to weave these carbon fiber mats. And as soon as they took it up to 125% or 140% to speed up the process, the fibers go through all these individual little combs. Each one of those wires, I'll get it in there. Each one of those wires is 60 thousandths. And the fibers would go through so quickly that this would heat up and it would either break the individual strands of fiber going through the comb, or it would actually heat up the little rods enough where they would fail and wear through. So what we came up with on the end, oh, the camera's all backwards. These are the old ones. These are the solid core ones. We came up with a hollow stainless steel rod and we pumped coolant through them to cool the combs. And I'm gonna put some pictures up on the screen. This is a weldment, believe it or not. I don't think you can get in far enough to see those welds. Can you guys see where those little rods are down in the tube and how they're fusion welded?
Yeah, I can see it.
Okay, well, I've got some, I took some pictures with my macro lens I can throw up on the screen here. And the way I overcame this, there's no way I was gonna weld these by hand. I just can't see that small. I tried cheater lenses underneath a welding hood, and it's a simple fusion weld. It's 2 large bars, and those little 60 thousandths rods just kind of snap into some milled grooves, and then you just have to run across it with a TIG welder to fuse them together. No filler required. But at that level, my hands are too shaky and I couldn't do it. So I made an attachment for my TIG torch to go on the milling machine, and I used the auto feed of the milling machine to pass the rod across these rods and fusion weld them together. There's a lot of trial and error involved, and I had a lot of failures. And it took me several months before I got the process down and was able to make them a viable comb that would go into the machine and work. But here, let me put these up on the screen and you can see a little closer what the welds look like at, I think I took these at 8x magnification. So let me flash this up on the screen. Harold, do you want to see if you can blow that up a little bit?
Well, I'll do it. I'll take some of the guys off.
Nothing personal, guys. There's no way to just blow me up.
No, sir.
Oh,
I gotta
okay.
I gotta give you the whole thing.
Well, I got about 4 or 5 pictures I can share. And you can see on the end, there's like some flat bars to kind of hold the other 2 bars apart. And then the little rods, when you snap them in the milled grooves, we cut them long. And then after everything was welded, then we'd go along and mill the side of it, and it would mill those flats in the bars, and it would cut off the little 60 thousandths rods. Let me flash another one here. That's what they look like there. There's a close-up of the actual fusion welds in those little 60 thousandths bars. We milled 60 thousandths grooves, and then those little rods just kind of snap in there. What you see on the small rods is a machine tool path on the milling machine. You have to step on the pedal, strike an arc, and get the machine moving very carefully. I had a lot of meltdowns. I had a lot of non-fused rods. You only get one chance at it in getting them together. Those little flat bars on the side are hand welded. Those aren't too bad. Let's see if I got any others there. Let's see what this says. Oh, there's a close-up of one. Let me blow that up. That's how they get fused down in the groove. Again, that's an 8x magnification there. But that was one of my more difficult ones for a carbon fiber company to build them water-cooled combs. Sounds silly, right?
That's pretty neat.
Yeah, it was okay. I mean, anyways, that's the end of my presentation. Back to me. There we are. Anyways, but those are my carbon fiber combs. These are the old ones. The new ones are still installed and still running good. We pumped a glycol-based coolant through them with a small water pump, and it just recirculates in a 55-gallon drum, and it works good. All right, that's the end of my story.
Looks good.
Well, I think we can just go home now.
Well, no.
So you actually drag it along at a set rate? Is that what you were saying?
Well, I used the power feed on the milling machine.
Power feed on the mill.
Yeah, to set the rate, and I made a little collet closer on the back of the TIG torch. I made one that would just slip up into a collet on the mill and hold it perfectly straight. And I used magnification. I used a 40 thousandths tungsten, and I think I welded that at about between 6 and 10 amps. Wasn't much.
That's fantastic.
See, Stan, if I welded that same thing, I would have to use an angle grinder on power feed to screw that out.
An angle grinder on power feed. Yeah.
Just because I'm a better grinder than I'm a welder.
A little grinding and a little paint makes you the welder that you ain't.
Well, in case you haven't noticed, that's why I use a lot of body filler.
Oh, okay.
Hooray for Bondo.
JB Weld.
Well, the
Stan,
original ones, I think the original ones were laser welded, which is hyper accurate. But the customer, and I told him that, I go, we might need to find someone with a laser welder. I don't know that I can do it with standard, TIG. But we got it, and it was no fun. To get 2 good combs, I burned through probably 8 or 10 that I junked.
Wow.
So
That's
brute force and determination prevailed.
Did you have trouble with distortion?
No, not at all. I mean, not that low amperage.
Yeah. How thick was the tube wall?
The tubing it only had an 1/8 inch hole down the center, and I think the OD of these bars is 3/8
Yeah.
tube. So it was a real. I bought a heavy wall.
Right.
It was like a DOM tubing. It already had a hole in it. I wasn't going to try to drill those out.
No.
It's even harder to try to weld tubing. Wow.
Yeah. Impressive.
My hat's off to you, man. You got way more patience than I do, my friend.
Okay, well that was one of the hardest things I ever had to do. There was another thing that I had to do, but I can't share it. I signed a non-disclosure with the customer.
Okay, so who's next?
Here you go.
All right, we got
All right,
outside
let's see
screwball.
what Chuck's got.
I'm gonna minimize the rest of us.
So this is a project I did back in 2013 when I really kind of just started getting into machining, and it was the guy brought me the aluminum plates. So the L-shaped bracket was milled out of or sawed out of an aluminum plate. One of the plates became a fixture plate. How to make the slides. So this unit can slide. The table can slide back and forth, and the arm that goes down can be raised and lowered, and then create the pocket. And what this did was it held a sawzall, and the sawzall blade, using a long blade, was held on the bottom like a bandsaw with bearings. And it was for a guy that designed it, and he was cutting corbels, rough frame corbels is what he was doing. There's another picture of it. It was very early on in my milling and learning things, and one of the things that I did is when I was laying out all the slots to mill them, I started from one side of the plate and measured all the way across the plate. And my mentor Chewy stops by, and he goes, "What are you doing?" And I go, "What?" He goes, "You're measuring off one side and you're going all the way across." And he goes, "No." He goes, "You go to center, and then you go off center. It's all the same." I went, "Shit, wish you got here earlier," but that's all part of learning. But it was a fun project, and it worked out really well for the guy. That's it. Bring everybody back, Harold.
Oh, here I am. Chuck he had the echo. James, have you got something to show us?
Yeah,
Sure.
it's not a whole lot compared to what Stan just showed, but just making this adapter for the tool and cutter grinder.
All right.
I had to have 0 run out on it because this thing's going to spin at 5,000 RPM, and I didn't want the wheel wobbling around. So not a whole lot to it. Threads, and there's the taper on it. But it works perfect, fits the wheel right on the money. That goes in there. So, yeah, I guess I'll put it together. That goes on there, and washer goes in there. Use the laser to cut out all my little felt washers. Screws on there. Come on, get on. If I can do it. There. Well, like I said, it's not really that big a deal, but man, that was to get that angle figured out on the tool and cutter grinder, what it was supposed to be. And it's an oddball number. It's got like minutes to it, but that's it. Next.
Well, great, Dave.
That was
Looks
good.
good.
Who's next?
I think
I'm
James
happy
was
to go.
going next.
Sure.
All right, let's let James go.
Sure. So easily the most complicated and most difficult project that I've ever worked on was the electronic lead screw. And I don't know how many people are familiar with it, but the point of the project is to replace the change gears on a small lathe with an electronic controller. And I'm not going to demo it, but I've actually got it installed on the lathe back here. It's just a little control panel with electronics. Is a screenshot of what it looks like. It allows you just to dial feeds and speeds for threading, metric and imperial, or actual feeds in millimeters or thousandths of an inch, and just run the lathe. And so the concept is you ditch all of the change gears and put a servo on the lead screw and an encoder on the spindle, so it can real time read the position of the spindle and keep the lead screw turning at the right ratio. And this is something that I'd always wanted to do for myself. I built it kind of so that I could have it for my lathe. And I showed it on YouTube, and I got so many people that were interested in it. I sort of got backed into producing them. And so what made it so complicated is that there were just so many things that I had to learn from scratch, things that, just figuring out from the beginning, sorting out all the gear ratios for all the different kinds of threads. Anybody can read the chart on the side of a lathe and move the knobs or install the change gears, but actually understanding the math behind it so that then you can simulate it in software was a bigger challenge than I had expected. Figuring out the real-time software control algorithms, that was all new to me. I was using a new microcontroller. I'm using some high-end TI DSPs, and that was all new to me. Figuring out the stepper and servo drives. I built a CNC machine, but I just followed instructions. So figuring that all out and how to do it was a big deal. Of course, there's all the mechanical adaptations on the machine, figuring out the control panel and the UI and how the user was going to interact, dealing with metric versus imperial, like metric threading on an imperial lead screw and all the math that's needed for that. And then ultimately, as people started saying, hey, I want these, designing PC boards, and actually not just designing the PC boards, but then actually having them manufactured and working with a fab to do the assembly, something I'd never done before. And of course, if I'm going to sell them, I need to know they're good. So I built production test fixtures and test software so I could snap the boards down, and it takes about half a second to test all the components on the board. And man, there's some 3D printing involved. There's a bunch of manufacturing involved, actually kitting things up, packaging, figuring out the e-commerce, figuring out how to sell this stuff. It was all stuff I hadn't done. And so, I started from scratch with this idea of, hey, I want to get rid of the change gears and just push some buttons. And it has just turned into a huge project. It's been pretty popular, getting a lot of real positive feedback from it, but it has been a huge learning curve in a whole variety of disciplines. I see the comment about the 5C collet holder. Yeah, it's sitting there on the lathe right now. I throw that on when I want to spin the lathe up to high speed with nothing in it and don't want to get hurt. That's all I got. Could all come back. I'm all alone here in the chat.
Okay, I'm going to add people back to the stream.
Earl,
Yeah,
can't
James,
you
that's
just maximize one person's screen and then the other ones go into a small, like a thumbnail on the side?
Uh-oh, Harold's got me in there. Uh-oh.
Where
I gotta go to work?
Where are you, Chuck?
Yeah, I got a question for James.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you.
What happens when you're spinning a lathe? You haven't made a cut yet. You're approaching your cut with the tool, and obviously, as soon as the tool engages the work, you get a little bit of RPM drop. There's always action and reaction. How fast does your system react to the RPM changes?
5 microseconds.
And you've obviously tried it.
Yeah. So
okay.
What's actually happening is it's generating the steps in real time. It's not maintaining velocity, except for the RPM readout. It doesn't have any idea of the derivative of the position. It just knows the absolute count from the encoder in real time, and it's driving the servo to match that. So it's 4,096 counts per revolution on the encoder, and it's driving, within 5 microseconds, it's driving the stepper output to match that, or the servo output to match that. So it's however fast the servo can react, that's what you get.
That's probably better than a lead screw, because a lead screw gets worn kind of in the spot where you work all the time, and your lead screw can get worn out.
That's true.
Variably.
Well, the lead screw, the lead screw is still in the loop though, right? Because that's ultimately when driving. It would be possible to set up PID control loops all the way through to a linear encoder on the carriage as well. In most cases, it's not really necessary though.
Okay. Well, I mean, there's always ball screws too. You can go to a ball screw and switch it over.
Well, and this is the thing. I get people all the time, first of all, who don't understand how complex the real-time control is. But, who does? You don't see a bunch of these out there because it is a really complex problem. People come in all the time and say, well, why can't we just go ahead and put a couple more servos in a couple places, and then we can have it feed across? Why don't we just put a stop switch? We can just stop, you can disengage, you move back. It knows how to re-engage, even if you're doing metric threads, and they don't understand the complexity. And also, as soon as you start doing that, saying, oh, I'm going to do a ball screw, I'm going to do stop switches, I'm going to have it automatically recycle, all of a sudden you're building a CNC lathe. And you probably would just be better off building a CNC lathe. But what this really is doing is just simulating the gearbox. So everything about cutting threads, like leaving the half nut locked if you're cutting metric on an imperial lathe, or which numbers you can engage on the threading dial, it's all the same. It's just replacing the gears with an electronic controller. So it ends up being a real simple concept, but hard to
Sounds wonderful. That's a great project.
It is. It was very impressive following through, and I know a lot of people that are actively trying to incorporate your kit to their machines right now. That there are some on YouTube, but that they're sharing, and it's been pretty cool.
Well, it's been pretty humbling to see the response to it, because this is similar to the kind of stuff I do in my day job with software, but then to see it applied in a way where I have really immediate feedback, where people asking questions or saying thank you or buying the kits. It's been a real humbling experience, especially when somebody calls me up. James Kilroy contacted me at one point, and he's talking about putting an integral horsepower servo on a massive lathe, and it's a little bit terrifying knowing that my software is going to be involved in something that could kill someone.
Well, he's got that big American pacemaker over there, so that thing's a monster.
He was trying to decide whether to fix the gearbox or put an electronic lead screw on it, and I'm like, wow, that'd be a great project.
I have to say, man, that is very cool, though. That's a very cool system.
And there's a guy on the Logan group that I belong to that's made one of those. I don't think he's as advanced as yours.
There are 2 or 3 others. There's a commercial unit made by Rockatronics in Germany, and it wasn't available in English when I started, which is kind of one of the reasons I messed with it. There's another guy, I can't remember his name, had a YouTube video about 2 years ago. He did something with an Arduino, which is, it's a real challenge. There's not really enough compute horsepower to do it, though it's possible. And I thought he was going to have kits out, and it doesn't look like it materialized. But and there's a Russian open source project as well on Arduino that I looked at, and I didn't see it had gotten very far.
Somebody's got some serious keyboard noise going on.
Someone's digging around in their shop. I hear parts flying everywhere.
I'm getting excited about mac and cheese like
they can't be quiet.
Randy, you made a comment. Randy, you made a comment last week about getting tired of making those dovetail cutters. And before I sold the first TC board, I made darn sure I had a repeatable process for manufacturing these things, because I did not want to get buried. And it kind of happened anyway.
Yeah.
Well, it's challenging because, people who buy from you, they have this mentality that this is your full-time job, when in reality, you already have a full-time job. This is a hobby thing. So people have expectations of immediate response, answer every question that they may have that may already been answered, and they're just expecting you to just wait by your phone.
There have been a couple of people that have jumped in some of the forums and have jumped on the issues in GitHub, and they just, somebody asks a question and they're just all over it, walking people through sometimes hundreds of messages back and forth. And, I don't have the time to do that. I'd be happy to, I just don't have the time. And seeing people in the community jump in on that's been amazing.
That's great.
That's awesome.
Okay, Al's got something to show us, so let's let him. Al, are you there? Al? No.
I just want to say a hi to Everett and hi to James, and it's good to see you guys joining in.
Hey, Al. Thanks.
Well, thanks for having us.
Well,
Who
Harold, I'll go.
Okay. Let me get rid of everybody but Mutual.
Okay. Now you have to keep in mind that I'm a novice. I'm not experienced machinist. I'm just a hobbyist. So one of the things that I decided to build last year is a Squareness comparator. And there were so many processes involved with it that were new to me that made it exceptionally challenging. For example, rotary table used to get the right curvature in a bumper, heat treating thicker material, and even heat treating thin spring material, and learning how to grind a custom bit on a D-bit bit grinder to cut a dovetail where the dial test indicator goes in, and just learning how to do everything as precise as I can, because in the past I just made things that I needed to do something. But with something like this that you're trying to measure in the 10th range, the more accurate it is, the better job I do, the more accurate it is. And there were just a lot of processes involved that I hadn't done before that made it really challenging. For example, this screw pushes on this piece with a spring steel that acts as a flexure, and then learning how to put the right finish in all the parts. And it just was very challenging. So I'm very proud of this. Oh, and hardened ball bearings that are pressed in and ground. So surface grinder work, which I'm new to as well, and just a lot of new processes that I hadn't done. So I'm particularly proud of this one. So you can bring everybody back, Harold.
Okay, I'm bringing folks back.
That looks beautiful. I've been meaning to build one of those for a long time. It's still on my list.
I didn't have to build one. Mutual made me one.
That's true, because you know how it is. Setup takes most of the time. So when I had this set up, I just knocked out a second one.
You didn't show him the engraving.
Ah, well, I'll show it right here.
That's a beautiful finish on it.
It is.
Yeah. Randy did the CNC engraving for me with my channel logo.
Oh, cool.
That's cool.
Thanks, Randy.
That's pretty cool.
Okay, guys, who's next?
Here, I got just what mine's really fast.
All right, Randy.
Yeah.
You got.
I'll go Harold, Al, if you want.
Mine's fast. So these. Oh, there we go. He's getting this. There we go. Here. I'm inside, so the camera angle is not too hot. Anyway, these I 3D printed them also, but these are sewing machine feet. And I don't have the aluminum one here to show you, but here's a darker one. But the 3D, I actually machined this also in aluminum out of a solid piece. Lathe work, mill work, and extreme work holding issues. That was probably the biggest challenge with all this. And it's not that big. It's for a quilting sewing machine. After making the aluminum one, I decided to try 3D printing it, and it's strong enough to work. So we went with the 3D printing, and being able to modify it afterwards was really helpful. So yeah, so this was an extremely challenging project to do. All right, thanks you guys.
Are you going? You want some with me, dog, or you want to stay? Yeah. Come on, mister. No more food for you.
Hey, when mom talks, you listen. You should tell your son.
Gotta get it done.
Okay, Al, where are you?
Okay, I'm typing. Okay, I won't type anymore. Great project, Randy. Small projects are the hardest.
We can't see you.
I can't even. Yeah. Okay.
Al, we can't see you.
Was based on this video.
We can't see him because he's inside of a can.
Okay, I'm here. I'm looking good. You can't see me? See my bald head? I don't understand. I see me. Okay, I got the whole screen. Oh my God. I'll hurry this up. Okay, this is based on a video that I have on my YouTube channel, video number 12. Okay, shop made tooling for a 10-inch Logan lathe for turret lathes, screw machine production. Okay, this is something Randy's very familiar with. And this is about the most complex thing I did in this shop yet. I've been here since '84, so that's not saying much. But what I did was, going to the lathe, I starting with the compound, I pulled the Logan compound out and built that base. Okay, again, you can refer to my YouTube channel, number 12 video for more details. I'm just going to go through this to give everybody a chance. But I tapped 4 holes, folded this down, put a stud through there, and had to locate the round stud into this bottom base. Okay, remember everything has to be accurate because this is a lathe. And built this base here with a weldment, and now my tool holder is positioned in there with pins. It locks in 4 positions. Okay, I could have gone more. There's 12 holes in the bottom of the turret, but I just went with 4. It locks with the pin. It's precision and repeatable. Okay, I built this holder with a 1-inch bore so that another difficult item that's in that video was I built this tailstock turret. Okay, from an old Poplar Mechanics casting booklet, and I made mine as a weldment, and everything was done on the machine. As far as accuracy, it's all built for the lathe. Okay. And that'll just be on in there. Okay, and that was difficult. And another feature was, everybody's quiet. I losing track of this. Another feature was this turret 4-position stop. Okay, and I have a forged piece here. I'm using my computer as a viewfinder because I can't see in my camcorder. But this is a forged piece of 4140 with a bearing TIG weld on there. And let go. And what was really difficult with this is doing all this welding that you see here and not locking the drum inside there and having to throw it away. Okay, I had to be real careful with the welding, and it fits really tight, and it's really accurate. And there's no play in there. It didn't lock up. If it would have locked up, it would have been just thrown away. Okay, and that's basically it. There's more details on that video on my YouTube site, which you can go to. The viewers can go to. Here's my YouTube channel, video number 12. So like and subscribe, and I'm done. Take it away, Harold. Take it away, Harold. Okay.
Okay, I'm bringing other people back, and I think Billy has something to show us.
I do.
All right, I'll let you have the whole thing. I'll just take everybody away again.
Well, this is a project I did about 11 years ago in 2010. It's really my first endeavor into machining. I wanted to do some CNC routing. So I built this. This is a CNC router I built out of MDF using nothing more than a table saw and a hand drill in my living room because I didn't really have a space or any place to do it with. The wife wasn't too happy because I used the living room floor to build it. Learned quite a bit doing it. Flip through some pictures here. I didn't really document it or have any video. This is, 11 years ago. I had no idea what I'd be getting into today. Put it in a nice little enclosure so that I could run it in my office here. And then it's got a little flap there in the front you can fold down so that I can put longer boards in it and strap them down so that I can actually use something, mill something bigger than the work envelope of this little router. So it runs Linux CNC, and I'm using a little Bosch Colt trim router for the spindle there. What made it so hard was, like I said, it was 11 years ago. I didn't know much about machining back then, didn't know anything about anything, and it just first set of ball screws I ordered from eBay. I thought they came machined. They didn't, so I had to order them again.
Okay, I'm adding people back.
All right.
That looked great.
Who else?
That's cool, Billy.
Thanks. You're muted, James.
I'll do it.
Who said that?
Sorry, I was just going to ask.
All right.
A question for Billy. Did you have that? Did you document that online? Was that in a forum or something at the time? Because it seems like I've seen that before.
I was in a CNC, one of the CNC forums. Yeah, so you may have seen it there.
I may have seen it there then. That's fantastic. I love that.
Along with my PO704 conversion too.
Yeah, I love bootstrapping that kind of stuff from the ground up with just hand drills and stuff.
Okay, this is not high tech. Some of you may have seen the video, but it was a pretty big project. This is hopefully I can aim the laptop right. This is a reproduction of a 1920 buckboard flyer. It's a wood car. It was actually sold to be street legal by Briggs and Stratton. Of course, it's not got it originally had a bicycle wheel that drove it. And that's a 2001 Kia Rio, and with a 3.5 horsepower Briggs and Stratton on it. Originally, it had no clutch. And this lever right here would raise the motor up. See, it's freewheeling now. but that's how you, that was your clutch. You just, the wheel ran full time, and you dropped the wheel to go. But that was really hard to operate like that. I was leaving black marks all over the neighborhood. And so I put the centrifugal clutch on it. The brakes are kind of crude. Got a plate that rubs up against the wheel. It's a little scary to ride, goes about 28 miles an hour. I've had it up to 40 miles an hour down a hill, and that's too fast. Anyway, that's it. Hopefully you could see it. I couldn't see what I was looking at.
We can see it.
That's fantastic. I love that. Just tip up the motor, stop.
That'd be a fun, scary project.
That looks nice, Mark.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
It was a fun project.
Who's
Yeah,
next?
my wife said, I saw a picture of it and I said, I'm going to build that. She said, what are you, a little kid or something? I said, yeah. I said, I'm a little kid with all the toys I need to build it now.
We pretty much all still are.
Yeah. Well, I'm ready whenever you are.
Okay, that sounds like Steve. I'm going to remove everybody.
I have to thank Randy Richards for helping me out on this one. I'm sure most of you are familiar with John Saunders and NYC CNC. And when he started building his Johnny 5 project, he sent out an appeal and asked people if they wanted to build parts. So I volunteered, and he sent me a drawing. And here is the drawing of the part. You don't need to see the details of it. But he sent it to me in Fusion. And I do have Fusion on my computer. I have the free version. I don't know how to use it. So I reached out to Randy Richard, and he said, well, email it to me. He says, I'll look at it and I'll get back to you with it. Well, within 10 minutes, I had this finished drawing back on my email. It wasn't a particularly difficult part to machine, but the setups were interesting because there are parts that are located on both sides. And with the equipment that I had, I made the puck on the lathe and drilled and tapped the center hole. And then I mounted it on my pallet. And in order to be able to turn the piece over to do the features on the opposite side, everything is lined up off a center line. So I zeroed in the milling machine on the center of the puck, and I drilled the first feature on the center line, and then I was able to, I put a gauge pin in it. So that located the piece. I cut this detail on the edge, which was in line there again. I kept this all set up in the mill on the y-axis. I was able to move and do this piece, and then I was able to turn it over upside down and put it back on the gauge pin. It's not going to go back together now. There it goes. Put it back on the gauge pin and retrued up the piece, keeping in mind that I'm being judged against people that are making these parts on CNC, and I'm doing it on a manual lathe. So I wanted to make sure that it was absolutely as accurate as possible. So I lined it up again on the pin, drilled the other two features, had it all finished, There was one problem though. When he sent me the original work, there's no specification for the threads in the piece. That information was in the email that he sent to me. And so I had the piece all finished up. Matter of fact, this is a finished piece. And I started packing it up to ship it back. And I opened up the email to get the mailing instructions. And I read through them and discovered that the thread for the middle piece had to be left hand. I missed it. So I had to make a new one. This has got the left hand thread in it, which I ended up boring a little bit too large. So the third one was the charm. And he got the part. And I don't know whatever happened because he hasn't finished putting it back together yet. But that was my setup challenge. That was actually one of the reasons that I ended up building this this aluminum pallet. And I'm done.
Okay, so we got Everett back already. You got something to show us, Everett?
Oh man, Steve, that would have been just frustrating. Well,
now we know what Chuck looks like for real.
I think Chuck's got a stand in.
As far as projects and endeavors, that's one of the two that's been the most challenged to me so far. Thankfully, she's still snoozing. The other one's out ice fishing with.
Harold, you got the wrong one. There you go.
Yeah, the other challenging project is out ice fishing with my wife today. So, my wife's a total fishing nut. It's awesome. As far as projects in this shop, other shoulder, that one there, that shaper there. It's the first machine I've ever actually really torn down. I did wind up doing a video series on it, and just because of time availability and such, it took a few months, that's for sure. But that was, to me, so far one of the most challenging things I've had to do here. All sorts of different things between, well, you could tell that it had a miserable life before I got it, simply because of all the bronze and brass and repair for the cast iron stuff in it. I can't really claim it to be a full restoration. I didn't scrape the ways for the ram. Maybe that'll be someday down the road. I'm not sure. I'm still thinking that the basically full waste oil lubrication system is not the best. Maybe at some point I'll put a drip pan underneath and try to do some sort of drip oiling or whatever. We'll see. I wouldn't say it's completely done yet for where I'd be happy with it. It was just, like I say, I had to learn a lot of new processes for it, come up with a control system, because I wanted to keep the cool switch on the front, but not kill anybody with exposed electrical wiring. Because, what amazes me is back in the 40s, they didn't care. They had open exposed electrical terminals there, 3-phase, whatever it was, 220 at the time, or what, I don't know what it'd be in England at the time, or UK at the time in the wartime. But you have to get under there to change the belt to change speeds. So I wanted to run a low voltage control, so figure out how to do that, and then find out I had a poor import SSR that failed as I was wiring it, and just had to retrace it and retroubleshoot that. But it was a really good learning experience. Thankfully, I didn't work with something a little bit more expensive as far as a new machine to tear apart. So anyway, that I would have to say, as far as in the shop here, that was my most challenging project. I mean, we've all got projects and different things that we've had frustrations with, but that one there, I had to learn a lot in the process, that's for sure. So, for what it's worth.
Okay, so let me get people back, and then we can find out who's next. All right, who? Oh, there you are.
Well, Everett, your shaper project was really cool, and
thank you.
I know a lot of people enjoyed watching it. So, I kind of get a little sensitive about some people that says, Unless you scrape your ways, it's not a restoration. But no, it is a restoration, and it was awesome.
Thank you. Most of my, the thing is, I figured for the length of cut I'm going to be making on it most of the time, maybe 2 inches, because I'm mostly, my biggest interest with it is internal keyways. And my personal challenge at some point, may not be even this year, I rebuilt automatic transmissions in a Chrysler dealer for 10 years. When I think gear set, I don't necessarily think spur gears. I think planetary sets. I want to learn how to make planetary gear sets. That's my goal. That's my goal. So we'll see where it goes. Like I say, with little people, and now we're moving, and et cetera, it might take a while, but thankfully, I mean, it's the nice thing is nobody's wanting it right tomorrow for, paying me money for it. So that helps.
Congrats on the moving.
Oh, thank you. I get a little bigger shop out of the deal. I'm thankful. Yeah.
Well, anybody else got a project, or did we cover everybody?
Well, I did find something on my Monarch yesterday. I've actually got I switched the camera and zoomed in on it. That's a 4-way adjustable carriage stop, and it was locked up solid. It was all packed with coolant, but it's a pretty interesting mechanism. If you'd like me to share it, I'll be happy to do that.
Sure.
Okay.
4-way adjustable, interesting.
This was completely locked up here, and you can see there's some detents here in the back, and there's a spring-loaded catch. It'll enable you to do your stops in there. This was locked up solid, and this has got a detent in it. It was all filled with coolant, and it was locked up pretty solid too. But I've redone these knurls and tidied up the knurls a little bit. Somebody put pliers on and really carved them up pretty bad. Huh. But I guess this is a factory Monarch carriage stop, and I got it all functioning and working, and I've never seen one of these before. So it's just kind of it's got 4 different positions on that rod, and I just thought it was kind of neat. Thought I'd share. Okay, back to me. That's it.
All right. I think I'll just take the next turn. Somebody wants to. I don't know why I'm echoing. Let me mute some microphones. All right. Now it's not echoing. But my hardest project was a plasma cutter. I never saw one. I never had one in my hands, and I had the bright idea I was going to build a CNC plasma cutter. That's a terrible move. So I started off not realizing how much I was going to need. I had a rinky-dink plasma torch that wouldn't cut much more than about 1/8 inch max, and I didn't have a torch height control, and I didn't know I needed to make it touch off, but between cuts. So I've had to go back and make a lot of modifications, one of which is buying a good torch, and then I got the touch off worked out, and the torch height control. In fact, I bought 2 of those. I managed to let smoke out of one, but that's my hardest project so far. Although I'm working on a harder one right now, I think I'm getting a little help from James Cloud. He does my thinking. All right, I'm going to bring you guys back.
Well, Stan, you seem to be having an awful lot of issues with that Monarch. I'd be happy to help you out and just get it out of there.
Well, I found another issue yesterday with the tailstock. I put the tailstock back on, and there's an oiling cup on top. Actually, the tailstock has a central oiling system, which is pretty over the top. But I filled the oil cup, and it started leaking right out the middle, and one of the little tiny tubes is ruptured, and I'm gonna have to take it off and try to get a new copper tube in there.
I can help you out. I'm just saying, if you want.
No, I got it. Don't worry. I know where you're going. I know where you're going with this.
Actually, Stan, thanks for showing that. That is a really cool idea. That stop. I've never seen one like that. That's very cool.
Yeah, it was pretty neat. It looks to be all factory Monarch. It's cast into the carriage. It's part of the casting on the carriage, and then that stop that goes along the ways looks to be factory. It's painted the same color. It looks to be period correct. So it doesn't look like a afterthought.
That's a very, very cool idea for an accessory.
Yeah, it could be pretty easily duplicated.
Yeah.
I took it all apart yesterday and defunked it. It was full of funk and nasty, sticky, grimy stuff, and it would make a cool project and wouldn't be that hard, for people that want like a ratcheting type stop.
That's cool.
Actually, the factory one for my big lathe, my Lance lathe, it's very similar to that. Actually, I have pictures of it, and people have sent me drawings and stuff for the original one. It's kind of similar to that. Actually, it works the same way.
Yeah, well, I mean, it was all locked up, so I didn't know what it was all about until I got it apart yesterday, and I'm just starting to play with a few of the things on there and get them working again. I got a bad oil leak in the spindle, so that the spindle actually has to come out. It runs quiet, but it slings oil everywhere. You would too if you were 80 years old.
How are those things for finding parts like seals and soft parts like that for it? Can you get?
Well, I went ahead and priced the seals for the tail and the head on the main spindle, and I sent a request to Monarch, and I got a quote back for $2,800.
Do they send a free piece of rope to bite on?
Entire lathe. Yes.
Wow.
I don't want it, Stan. I don't want the lathe.
I just wanted to price it. They call it a packing, so I think it's like a rope type seal in there.
Okay.
I'm gonna get it apart. I'm gonna pull the spindle out of it. You have to pull the spindle out to get to the oil pump in the head anyways, and I want to get to the oil pump and get it apart. So no matter what, the spindle's got to come out.
Thank you.